Greetings, friends from Athens and the World Council of Churches consultation, the centenary celebration for the Life and Work Conference. Today, we do have with us Professor Marioras, Michalis Marioras. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to the World Council of
Thank
Churches
you. The honor is
Communications
mine.
Professor. As a member of the reference group of the World Council of Churches on interreligious dialogue and cooperation, what is your specific hope in terms of contributing to the work of the WCC and the specific group through these collaborative platforms? And how can interreligious dialogue become more than a conversation, in your view, become transformative, especially in areas where we see conflicts and require any kind of peace building and mediation as well?
That's the point. We need less words and more actions. In my vision about interreligious dialogue and cooperation, the main aim is to pass from academic dialogue or theological dialogue to social action.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy to see the message of the conference today, but I think, in my opinion, this is a turning point to the rhetoric and to the aims of the conference. I'm very happy to see that now we are talking about the real problems of our days, such as the ethnic cleansing and Gaza Strip, also in Ukraine, the war between Russia and Ukraine. For example, let me mention one example concretely. We have a lot of Orthodox churches in WCC. What are the specific efforts to bring together the Church of Ukraine and the Church of Russia to discuss about the war? Are the representatives of the two churches ready to take on the moves, the necessary moves for to ask from the leadership of the countries to sit together and discuss? This is a concrete example. Also about the genocide in Palestine and elsewhere in the world. What can we do? We have discussed enough. We have all the theological premises. Now it's time to act with concrete little steps every time in every region.
Thank you so much. You have also emphasized repetitively in content that we see from you the stereotypes, challenging the stereotypes and nurturing a more nuanced understanding of Islam and religious minorities. In today's Europe, how do you see the role of theological education in general in dismantling prejudice and nurturing peaceful coexistence? We want to have this special focus in Europe through your expertise, and also take please into account these realities that we have on migration, identity, integration in general.
In a few words, as an academic teacher, I believe in education. Education can change stereotypes, mind setting, etc. But we have to be honest. We have to prepare new generations to be ready not only to coexist, but to cohabit in our planet, in our Europe, for example. It is very difficult to bring together so different people. Religiously is our conversation, of course. The other step comes from the part of the Muslims in Europe. Are they ready to integrate? Please let me use a more accurate term, not to integrate, but to participate. To participate in society, in everyday life. It isn't possible to ask to implement the Sharia in European countries. You cannot do that. You see, for example, Christians adjust and live their lives according to the canon law. But this is not against the state laws. The implementation of Sharia is one of the main problems that Muslims themselves have to resolve.
What we see in the international affairs system in general, and more specifically in the United Nations system, and as we reach sometimes in specific conflict areas, this end of politics that we discuss so much, is the local metropolitan or the local bishop, the local, I would say the religious leader of the area in general, as the last resort, the person that still has the trust of the people and the communities around in order to facilitate different processes and peace building. Interreligious dialogue in that sense becomes an extremely important tool, instrument in the international affairs. We see that more and more in Geneva and the Human Rights Council as the religion entry point, common values regardless of faith, religion, denominations, etc. What is your approach? What is your first reflection on that?
I totally agree with only one remark. We have to go from the spiritual elite to the grassroots. We need the people. It is more easy to communicate academics or clergymen between us, but the problem and the results must go down to the grassroots, the simple people, everyday life. How we can facilitate the relationships. It concerns relationships between Christians and Muslims, for example, in European countries, in everyday life, in schools, in jobs. This is the main target.
Thank you. You recently reflected that there would be no Christianity without the resurrection. That was an inspiring and very profound truth. How do you see this resurrection-centered message translating into hope and action in today's fractured world, exactly in the frame that we discussed earlier, especially in international affairs and crisis zones, if we move to something that is purely existential, orthodox, if you like? And
very simple. Resurrection presupposes crucifixion. This is the best example of our lives and of the situation all over the world.
yes.
Now we are living the phase of the sacrifice. We have to realize that this sacrifice must end to a resurrection. So we have to be close to the people in these areas you mentioned with the hope of the resurrection. Even if they are not Christians, we have to transfer the real meaning, the message of the resurrection, which is not the abolishment of death, but the defeat of death. And allow me to say that this is my motto in my everyday life. We cannot abolish death or all others difficulties, but we can live better because we have hope.
Thank you for this message, and let's conclude with your participation in the Life and Work Conference here in Athens. Love without discrimination was the central theme, and it also intersected very well with the WCC conference in Berlin this week as well. What message do you think the global ecumenical movement needs to carry into the next decade in this specific direction? And how do we sustain both conviction and compassion in a polarized world? What is your concluding message, I would say, to our audience?
In a few words, as I already mentioned, from dialogue to action, from words to the field, from the elites to the grassroots. And allow me to say that all of us, Christians and not Christians, we have to study and follow the message of this particular conference. It is the spirit of the first conference 100 years ago, and I think that is the turning point to change our rhetoric and the aims concerning the coexistence and, or even better, cohabitation in this planet. I just call everyone to study the message, the today message I mean, of the conference.
Thank you, Professor, for spending time with WCC Communication and engaging with our audience as well, and all the best as you continue to build bridges with your words, with your work and words bridges of understanding that go across faiths and across borders as well. Stay tuned with WCC Communications for more updates from the conference here in Athens.